Like right now, Trump is really pounding those bombs into Iran right now, but I don't think it's considered still a war though. I mean, people want to say it's a war because if we're dropping all these bombs and we're doing these military operations, but it's not a war. I mean, for one, the Congress has not yet declared war on it. So, like, what is it then? Is it some illegal operation then? Is Trump not violating the Constitution? I mean, doesn't really seem like it. It seems like more like he's being a president. I mean, exactly what people think presidents actually do. I mean, the whole purpose of having presidents so that they can, if that's essentially execute the law and defend the country as a whole. So where exactly is there is a confusion of what he's doing? It's like when he's in Iran, he made it very clear that he was doing it to secure those nuclear weapons that would be used against the U.S. citizen, and that will cause problem for us abroad. So it's very clear it's supposed to be policing power what he's doing because that's what we had a standing army in the first place, and so that the president can put down these rebellions or dangers abroad for citizens because there is no other purpose to have a standing army. Like, well, he has all those people right now. Like, he had the Seventh Fleet, or like those. He had those couple of like almost three carriers in that one region. It's like, yeah, because we made the budget for him to do the policing with that military resources ahead of time. It didn't. There was no need for more additional forces that wasn't foreseeable by the citizens for people from the U.S. citizens. It's like that's what we had the defense budget. It's like, okay, this is your budget to execute your office. That's essentially what it was. I mean, what exactly people think defense budget are? They're they're making those budgets so that they have something to work with on a moment's notice. Otherwise, they're going to be writing a declaration of war, and then boom, there's going to be a whole new amount of resources. But how do you know specifically this is not necessarily war? Besides, we're not having a declaration of war by Congress, which hasn't happened since the 1942, I believe, or 44. Maybe I gotta check that out. But essentially, since World War II was the last declared war, everything else was essentially a military operation or a policing operation from the police from the president, because there was no demand for the actual level of resources from Congress that wasn't already appropriated. For one, if Congress doesn't want them to do this kind of war, then just go back to what originally was established, which is the budget was supposed to be small because the military was intended to be a contingency force, which right now is still considered to be a contingency operation because this is a specific operation that wasn't foreseeable, nor is it something that the Congress can declare. It's policing. But previously, what we had was the president had like maybe tens of thousands of soldiers standing by, like standing army essentially. The rest of the army were at home, essentially, or essentially you, me, and every other free and able-bodied male citizens. They were the butchers of the army. So if there was going to be something requiring a declaration of war, how would you know it's a war? For one, the militia will be called, not just the one that considered to be on reserve, but the entire militia. Like every able-bodied male citizen would be called up and be serving. Kind of like what they did. They call up the militia in World War One and World War Two. You may actually know that as the draft, but that essentially was what gave them the power to do that. Is that the citizens already gave them the authority to say if there's a time of war, go ahead and call up every free and able-bodied male to contribute to this war effort with by by essentially getting ready to the battlefield. Although there was now a little bit of change in that we didn't necessarily need to have our weapons with us to bring to the battlefield because there was a bit of a budget for them to have it on hand. But actually, that's not even true because they actually had to manufacture all those weapons during the war, which realistically shouldn't not be happening in the first place. Like World War I, World War II. Okay, for the tanks, reasonable. It's like there's unforeseeable that you can have all those tanks, or especially when they just came out. But the ships, like you see them, like especially during World War II, you saw a lot of these shipbuildings. It's like okay, it's reasonable that the state, like the federal government, was going to be participating in, I should say, building out these war efforts, these war productions. But the idea that they had to build out so many firearms and ammunition, now that would be something President George Washington would have been disappointed in. Why? Because he was actually one of the supporters of the Second Amendment to be included in the idea that every free and able-bodied male should have their own arms to be able to carry into into battle, because they at the time, and they knew that war can happen at any time. So the idea that you're gonna have the state to constantly be able to manufacture all your products, or all your firearms and your ammunitions on the moment's notice of the crisis, that's just ridiculous. It's more pertinent to have every free and able-bodied males to essentially have their own, I guess what they call it right now, weapons of war, and today will be assault rifles, because especially not just limited at the bare minimum an M16 with the full automatic selector switch, so to be ready to go to war anytime. The idea is not to have the government constantly be having to produce all the weapons, because think about it, at the time of the World War II, we actually had to scrap metal and had to spend precious time and resources and higher costs too to purchase more firearms that was ready for battle, when instead they could have had them already in arms. Like they could already have, like for now and for today, we can all have already an M16 with selector switch. It may not be the best model available because I know there's like multiple models now in M16s, but there was no need to, there would be no need to say we got to ramp up production of M16. It's like, why? Everyone, pretty much everyone male already has one. It may not be the latest one, but the barrels are pretty much interchangeable, and ammunition pretty much the same. If you want to, so they're pretty much ready, good to go. You can ramp. You can maybe do the. Yeah, in fact, they're probably very familiar with their Pacific style rifle, especially since they probably customize it and probably calibrate it so it fits their specific need, not necessarily like some warehouse where basic like rifle that now they got to get familiar with while on a battlefield, and then when they're getting shot at, it's like, so you see there is a sense that, okay, think I went off there about the idea of, yeah, like how we're not a war right now because we didn't have the mass production. And for one, we didn't, like there's no requirement of allocating the resources of the country for a war effort, and that we haven't be calling up the bigger one is that we call up the militia to essentially assist in this. Why that must be important? Because the militia is the pretty much the it is the majority of the force of the U.S. military might capabilities. Like that is what is defending the free state is the militia. It's like we have professional standing army, sure, that's a standing army. We made that because we realized that we need something so that the president has something to always have on hand in a moment's notice to be able to use. That's why standing army. But they're not supposed to be the main army. I mean, they're not the essentially the guardians of the free state. They are almost like the spear. It's like, okay, you put himself in a position, and but we getting ready. The army, the militia, get ready to go into battle. So that's how you know we're not in our we're not we are not like we are not in war right now. It right now they're only using the standing army. That's essentially what the that's essentially how the president even execute his office. That's how we actually fulfill his role, his duties in office with the military force. Essentially, I mean, how else is he going to enforce the laws without force? It's like that's why you have that force outside the army in the first place. So I mean, it's not so to say that Trump right now is being committing like he's unconstitutional. It's like, well, those people are just ignorant. Their paper mill degrees that they got, obviously, they never even studied or learned from the Constitution or those writings about why we even had those standing army in the first place. They're sophomores that think they're smart because someone told them they're smart, without actually demonstrating their cognitive skills and capabilities by producing a body of work to show that they're capable. Essentially, kind of what we tried to avoid when we were fighting against the British, the idea that you rely on titles. It's like, oh, now we kind of essentially they want essentially these so-called educated are kind of relying on the same kind of things we were destroying when we got the Revolutionary War, which is titles that establish your status. Like we got rid of kings, we got rid of royalty titles, we got rid of every other title too. Like no more Mamelukes or what's that called, sultans or emperor's title like that. Nope, we don't do that here in the United States. It's based on what you've done, what you're capable of. No longer have titles of status that supposed to demonstrate, that supposed to be automatic stamp of like, oh, you can do this already. Like, no, you have to show you can do it. This is a merit-based country, not a title-based country. So when they try to say, well, you look at the degree, like, what was the degree in? It's like, well, in horticulture or husbandry, or maybe like, I don't know, some art thing. It's like, well, okay, but what have you understanding about the Constitution? Where's your documentation on understanding the Constitution? That your essays they can refer to, or can you at least explain to me right now how your understanding is? We can have a debate and we can judge each other how well we actually understand the documents. And they're gonna constantly rely like, well, you should know because I have a degree from Stanford or whatever. It's like we don't do titles here no more. That's the thing. It's like you gotta have an understanding about what is the role of the government in the first place. It's a facilitator of the citizens' interests essentially, and the president is supposed to facilitate the interests of the citizens' security, both home and abroad. That's why we have a navy for one too, and I guess that's kind of like what Trump is doing is what Thomas Jefferson did when Americans were getting enslaved by Islamic State in I think it was in near Tripoli, and without any cause or reason, not even we didn't have no disputes with them in the first place. So that was a reason. Again, it's like don't need to declare war. I don't think. Let me check. I don't think that wasn't even declared a war in Tripoli. I think that was just also a military operation, just to like essentially execute his office faithfully by sending over navies over there with the Marines to take out the the Islamic State military offense that was going against American citizens, essentially doing trading abroad. So that's how we used presidents as a policing power for the United States. Although we're not a police, we're not a global police because we're not a global society. It's like this is for like we may provide a lot of security in the wake of our Navy ships and our assault ships, but doesn't for like everyone else around, like for India, for for the Europe, for some African country or Asian countries or South American countries, we like our ships when they go through ocean lanes, they're pretty much kind of maintain a little bit of decorum in there among the rest of the people who are not going to want to stir up any antagonism because they will know the U.S. military will act on it, but not because of the other country's interest, but because of American interest. Because most likely, if they're going to attack that one person or one country's ships, they may very well attack the American ships and like merchant ships. We don't want that. So in Americans Navy's wake, essentially people get security. Well, the rest of the world gets security, but it's not a priority. It's not the American priority. It should be the priority of other states, like Europe, like how Trump says to them, "Hey, this is your strait, man. We don't get no resources from here." I think right now the only reason we're there is to take out the Iran's weapons nuclear project, essentially. But other than that, I think Trump made it very clear this is a policing activity to remove that threat that's pointing at the U.S. I mean, Iran has been been conducting war on us, or at least military operation against the U.S. directly for the past since 1979. Be consistent, even with through their colonies on Yemen and on Lebanon, and I guess even to the extent also on their colony on Gaza. So they constantly attacking the U.S. in that area. But realistically, this is what Trump is doing, or President Trump is doing. It's only policing. That's what we has a budget for. I mean, that's one of the reasons why the Congress is not necessarily stopping him, because they can only stop him with, I says, by the purse. It's like, okay, we're going to cut your budget. It's like, well, he already has a budget to conduct this warfare, or not warfare, but this military operation there for now. But in order to make it stop, I guess they could cut the funding. It's like, okay, we're cutting the funding now from, like, you are no longer allowed to spend any more money on this operation. And that's one thing they can do. Because they can't tell the president to bring back the troops. That would be separation of powers. You wouldn't want the Congress to have access to how to direct the military personnel. But also, you don't want to have the president to have full access to unlimited resources. So that was the idea, that if the Congress really was wanting to stop them to doing this and not just make it political theater, they will just cut the budget. It's like, okay, we're cutting the budget this year or this quarter. It's like, we're cutting it in half for the federal budget. So now you got to figure it out how to budget your funding for the next rest of the year, and then but then they'll force them to, or maybe just say we're cutting the funding for that specific project right now. So if you keep going, you're going to be out of money. But they haven't done that. Just grandstanding, because even those who are just grandstanding political theater politicians recognize that Iran having a nuclear weapon, that they're almost 60% of the way there, is not good for their own self-preservation in life. That's why they not really trying to stop Trump in conducting this military operation in Iran. And actually, and unfortunately, right now we actually have a lot of allies. We're actually getting allies around the region now to help us. But yeah, not a war. Just the president executing his office. What else was the president going to be doing?